Is Jason Botterill the right captain to steer the ship out of stormy waters, or is he driving this thing right into an iceberg? That and more nautical references coming up on Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm Zane Begg, and I'm a Seattle-based journalist covering the Seattle Sonics, Torrent, and Kraken, and welcome to Locked On Kraken. Today, I'm going to tell you about the Kraken's chances of getting the first overall pick or second overall pick, and also their chances of making the playoffs, which both of these things are somehow in play with only 4 games to go. The Kraken do get a win over Vegas, which is why they're so mathematically alive for the playoffs, but also it didn't actually hurt their lottery odds that much, and I'm excited to tell you about that. But we need to talk about Jason Botterill. This is the big news from the week. General manager, former general manager, and then president of hockey operations, Ron Francis, resigning / being fired. A couple of days ago, yesterday, we heard from Kraken CEO Todd Lewicki, where he said that Jason Botterill would be coordinating an independent audit. He said to be leading an independent audit, I believe is the verb that he used. And they would do a deep dive, a comprehensive investigation. Man, these royalties to Emerald City Hockey are killing me. I'm paying for RJ's second lake house. But they're going to do a deep dive, and they're going to figure out what's going on and find out how to fix this. And so the reaction that I had, that a lot of people had, was if Jason Botterill, who has been with the GM or the team as AGM and then GM for all of these 5 years, so he's been part of this front office, has built this team that's not very good. If he's leading the independent audit, how independent is that? Now, there was a distinction that was made by Alison Lukan that I think was really smart. Obviously, it's Alison Lukan. Of course, it was smart. Where she pointed out that there is a difference between conducting and coordinating. Is Jason Botterill going to be conducting the audit? Is he going to actually be doing the investigation himself? It doesn't sound like it. But you need somebody in the organization to make the phone calls, to do the Google searches, to find out, how to fix an NHL team. And then you call the first result or whatever it is. And it's got to be somebody high up in the organization. Well, it's probably not Ron Francis because you just fired him. It would typically be CEO Todd Lewicki, but he's currently in the process of putting together a bid, a reportedly $7 to $10 billion bid for an NBA expansion team to bring back the Sonics. So he's way busier than he would be in if this was 2 years ago or even last year. But right now, he's trying to bring back an NBA team. He's trying to bring back the Sonics. And as much as the Kraken are important, this is a bigger deal. The market is what it is, and bringing back the Sonics is the most important thing in Seattle sports. So who conducts the audit? Who does the coordination of the people conducting the audit more accurately? And Jason Botterill is the most logical choice for that. That's maybe a little disappointing. I would have liked to have at least been in the running for Sonny Mehta, who's the hot name in front office circles these days. He's the AGM of the Florida Panthers, team that won 2 Stanley Cups and then went to a 3rd Cup final. He's someone whose career I followed pretty closely because he is someone who, it's a book he wrote in 2007. This is Professional No Limit Hold'em, Volume 1. It's a technical poker book co-written by Matt Flynn, Ed Miller, and Sonny Mehta. If you, this is like one of the most important poker books written in the aughts. It's one of the most important theory books. And so seeing a professional gambler then go into hockey, really, I clocked that, for obvious reasons, given that I'm also a professional gambler who has also gotten into working into hockey. I was saying I got into hockey implies that I haven't been a hockey fan for 30 plus years at this point, but got into working hockey anyway. So he made to, he'll be GM somewhere, some team next year is my guess, but it won't be the Kraken. Now, speaking of poker, one of the exercises that I think is really instructive is if you see someone making what you believe to be a mistake, ask yourself the question, what are the conditions necessary for this not to be a mistake? If someone makes some crazy play and plays some crazy hand, it's also true in competitive Magic the Gathering. And what are the conditions for Jason Botterill to be the right choice? And the first thing I think of is that there was, Todd Lewicki alluded to the fact that Ron Francis was still a presence and that Jason Botterill wasn't able to spread his wings as much as he would like to under Ron Francis. And his track record with trades has actually been pretty good. Yeah, let's just look at him real quick. He's only been GM for a year, but Mason Marchment, they traded a third and a fourth for him, and then he didn't work out. They traded him for a second and a fourth. It's a nice upgrade. It's a nice little bit of business. Bobby McMahon for a second and a fourth, which is just an underpay. I mean, at the time, we talked about this and said Toronto should have gotten more. They should have gotten a first-round pick, but they got Bobby McMahon for less. Freddie Gaudreau for a fourth is fine. That's, it's pretty reasonable. Andre Burakovsky traded for Joe Veleno, who, Andre Burakovsky had a cap hit of $5.5 million. And they traded him for someone who they bought out immediately after. And next year will be carrying but less than a $300,000 cap hit because of the buyout. $5 million to $300,000. That's a nice little spot of business for a cap dump for a disappointing contract, a bloated contract. Ryan Lindgren's signing wasn't great, I will say. And maybe that's just the curse of this franchise, is that they will make good trades and they will sign bad contracts. But the thing that I think that could be happening here is that just because you're part of an organization doesn't mean that you're the one who is making the decisions. I worked for a company. I was designing poker and sports betting promos, and a part of that involved writing terms and conditions and making sure the legalese was right, because there are all these anti-gambling things and you had to make sure that it complied with these regulations. And you're operating in multiple states, and so you have to deal with like different gaming commissions, and it was just like a lot of technical legal stuff and contract language that you had to get really precise. And when I was there, they decided, you know what? We're not going to use email anymore. We're still paying for Microsoft 365 Enterprise. We still have Exchange and Outlook and all the stuff, but we're choosing not to use it. We're going to do everything in Slack. Everything. If you want to send something to compliance, which was a necessary part of the job, do it in a Slack DM. There's no version control. There's no way to find things. There's no way to search for things easily. Things get lost. I mean, this was the paid plan, so at least it's not like things disappeared after 90 days. But it wasn't even a matter of cheapness. It was just that was what they thought the workflow should be. And it was crazy. And I was like trying to tell, like, how can you do this? This is such a liability concern. I mean, we're sending legal documents. I mean, these are things that the company could get sued. They could lose their gaming licenses. This is a bit like billions-dollar company, not just like a mom and pop startup. And if you were to look at that from the outside and you say, wow, this organization, they decide to use Slack for all their email concerns, all their email needs, instead of using email for email. And guess what? Please try to contain your surprise. Things got lost. It was hard to find things. There was no version control. Oh, something happened, but people missed it because it happened in a Slack DM and instead of an email thread. You can't put things in folders. You can't sort things, but this is how it is. And now if you look at that and you say, wow, Zane was part of that. He's just part of everything else. No, I would have done things very differently. And I would have chosen to use email for email and Slack for synchronous communication instead of asynchronous communication. But maybe that's what's happening here. Maybe there was just a lot of using Slack instead of emails happening at the Kraken. And Jason Botterill was like, maybe we should use email for email. And they're like, you're dumb. And then, we go 4 years and they say, wow, maybe Jason Botterill was right. Maybe he was right all along. And we made a mistake. I don't know. I mean, the perception of the team isn't good. This is the rankings from The Athletic, the power rankings, this is so insulting. This is so insulting. Reads 30th, Seattle Kraken, for the Terry Berkly Trophy, who is the owner of the Buffalo Sabres. For most aimless franchise, good on the Kraken for finally going in the tank and pushing their way up the lottery odds, and congrats on the Athletics number 7 prospect pool. But truly, what is going on over there? Big picture, could you come up with 5 less relevant teams? Could you come up with one? This is year 4, not good. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you say that this is an irrelevant franchise in year 4? This is an irrelevant franchise in year 5. Get your facts straight, Dom Lucian and Sean Gentili of The Athletic. Your coverage is really good. But get it right, buddy. Coming up next, we're going to talk about their win over Vegas. And wasn't that bad for the lottery? It really wasn't. So we get to enjoy this one without guilt. Spring is a natural reset point, and if there's one thing that can quietly cost businesses money, it's messy communication. Missed calls, scattered text, no clear thread of who said what, and that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2 with over 3,000 reviews, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses. It lets your entire team share one business number so you never miss a call, text, or opportunity. The part I love is that everything lives in one clean thread with calls, texts, and voicemails. The whole team sees the conversation so nothing falls through the cracks, and it makes your business feel more organized and responsive. Makes the season no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedonnhl. That's quo.com/lockedonnhl. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. I'm guessing over at Quo, they're not using Slack for email. Just saying. Don't forget to check out the Everydayer Club for ad-free episodes and access to a group chat with other listeners to the show. Tap the link in the show notes or to go to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer. Kraken yesterday, they ended up winning against Vegas in a shootout 4-3. This was a really great win if you want them to win. If you don't want them to win, you want them to increase their lottery odds. We'll talk about that in the next segment and why it was actually not that bad. But Kraken at home in the Abyss jerseys, and you can't read the numbers, and everyone's stoked and everyone's happy. And then the game starts, and the Kraken, they scored a power play goal, which is like the first time, I think, 17 attempts in 8 games. They finally got one, what Jared McCann did. But the Kraken, they're down 3-1 in the third period, and it's like, here comes another loss. And then a really weird thing happened. The puck took a weird bounce off a stanchion, and there's a little thing to know about in hockey. If you're ever watching hockey and someone talks about a stanchion, one of two things have happened. One is that it's broken. A stanchion, the metal columns between the planes of plexiglass. And it's the thing that holds them together, which allows the plexiglass to have give so that the players don't get hurt when they run into the boards. So sometimes it breaks and then play stops and they're like, they're repairing the stanchion. But usually when you hear the word stanchion, it's because it took a crazy bounce. The puck hit a stanchion and then changed directions abruptly, and it happens like it just had to hit it exactly the right way. And it happens so infrequently, but it does happen sometimes. And that's what happened here. Berkly Catton, puck just goes in front of the net. The goalie, Aiden Hill, just goes back to play the puck, and the puck takes a crazy bounce. So let's take a look at the animation here. And I mean, you see that the puck just has a mind of its own, and then all of a sudden just goes right to the front, and Berkly Catton is there. And so that ends up making it 3-2. Then Bobby McMahon scores. They end up going to overtime, and then Kraken win in a shootout on a Berkly Catton goal in the shootout. So that's nuts. It's crazy. I mean, now you're like, this great. This team's been, you need them to win or to lose for the lottery, and now they decide to win. But this was a good win. And after the game, man, the locker room, it's been so somber in there recently, but last night there was so much relief, and the players tend to clear out after losses, but after wins, they linger around a little bit and they just kind of hang out. And I couldn't hear Jared McCann really talk because Brandon Montour and Riker Evans were right behind me, and Monty's just like chatting away, and Joey Decord, he's talking to somebody, and players just hanging out. After a loss, that room's empty, and then media relations will bring out usually 2, sometimes 3 players, but usually 2, and then that's it. But yesterday it was just kind of a more communal atmosphere, and you could really sense it, and you could sense the joy when talking to Berkly Catton about it.
Berkly, you've had to work to get goals this season, and then you have a wide open net staring at you. What's going on?
Yeah,
in your mind?
Crazy how that works. Had a lot of good looks that haven't gone in, and then get a really good bounce with an open net. So that one definitely felt good. Do
you have time to think about it at that point?
It's just on my stick. I see an open net. I even took a little too long, I think, but it went in still.
The camera zoomed in on you after the goal, and you kind of had a look on your face, like were you saying? What were you saying with that look?
Well, I don't know how it ended up on my stick, really. So I was like kind of surprised, I guess, and then relieved a bit. I went into.
It's funny how hockey works like that, right? Where you get so many good looks, and it's not going, and then all of a sudden, one that you really shouldn't be a look at all, right? Yeah, and it's funny. I've had games where I'm really feeling it and haven't gone in, and then a game where I'm not really feeling it, and then I get a bounce like that. It's great. So stuff like that happens from the hockey gods, which is pretty crazy.
And how talk about your mindset as you head up to that puck in that final shot in the shootout? What do you think? Do you know where you want to go with the puck? Are you playing it by ear? What are you thinking as you approach that puck?
Honestly, nothing really. I just I remember talking to Fred, and he's kind of like just feel the puck out at the start, and I think that'll give you a little bit of confidence when you come in. So I tried that out and actually felt pretty good when I came in, and then just tried to shoulder fake a couple times and see if he'd bite, and got it up.
I think things have been tough for you lately, no question, for the team.
Yeah.
How good does this feel in the room?
Yeah, I mean, huge, and a huge third period too, and I think we just really rallied together, and everyone pulled their weight and did their job, and it was awesome tonight.
Berkly, after you scored in the shootout, I don't know if you saw his face, but Stevie almost looked happier for you than you did or anyone else did. Literally just the biggest grin. You've obviously been living with him this year. What has his leadership and mentorship meant to you?
Yeah, I couldn't even really put into words what he's done for me this year, and I'm not surprised to hear you say that. I think even with my first goal too, he was more pumped than me, honestly. So he's been such a great mentor to me, and really cherished my time with him this year.
Thanks.
It's Chandler Stevenson, because Berkly Catton's living with him, and Chandler Stevenson, he loves that kid so much. Chandler Stevenson's really growing on me, and we'll have to talk about that at some point. I mean, he's going to be on the team for 5 more years, so I would certainly hope he grows on me. Bobby McMahon had something interesting to say as well, and this wasn't the full availability, but this was a really interesting comment about feeling wanted here.
Bobby, that's 9 goals in 14 games for you, a handful of assists in there too. I think that's one of the best stretches of your career from a point standpoint. Like, what is it about you, for you individually here, that's kind of worked since getting to town and cleared to kind of join this group and have the production you've had?
I think it's been feeling confident from coaching staff, management, trade's kind of two-sided. Like, obviously a team wants to maybe move on from you, but another team wants you, and they show that confidence in you, and they like what you bring. And I think I kind of felt that coming in. And then the guys were great. Like, they were complimentary. They were trying to be supportive of my type of game, and that just all works well to feeling confident and kind of feeling able to play your game. And that's for me, trying to shoot pucks, use my speed, and I feel comfortable doing that here, which has been awesome.
Thank you.
No worries.
Bobby McMahon is going to be one of the top free agents this summer. This free agent class is not very good. And so him talking about, the comment about like, I'm not wanted, but then you go someplace you're wanted. And he's had so much success here, and he has so much opportunity here, and he's getting minutes here that he wouldn't necessarily get elsewhere. I do hope that he signs here. We think he'd be a real nice key piece of this team to generate some offense where we just haven't seen a lot of it. So this was John Tortorella's first loss as the coach of the Vegas Knights. The Kraken are 3-0 against Vegas this year. They're 6-11-1 all time against them now, but 3 before the season started, 3-11-1. So that's neat. They won in their third jerseys, and they won in a shootout against Vegas. And it's like, wow, when the season started, I wouldn't have expected any of that. I guess I didn't know how bad the Abyss jerseys would be in terms of cursing the team, but regardless, Kraken did it. And now if you're dismayed that they lost, or excuse me, that they won and then lost some percentage on their lottery odds, I'm going to tell you why it actually wasn't that bad, and that we can enjoy this win over Vegas for what it is while still preserving their lottery hopes. Hey, friend, thank you for making Locked On Kraken part of your daily listening routine. It means a lot to me. I try to put my time and effort to make this the show the best show it can be, and I do that because I enjoy doing this for you. And I get to do this every day, and it is a joy and a privilege, and I just appreciate you making this part of your routine. So just want to say that. The Kraken, let's take a look at the standings. So you'll notice that despite having all the teams around them with an E next to them, the Kraken do not have an E next to them, despite how are they possibly making the playoffs here. And the reason for that is because there is still a path. It's not a likely path, but it's a more likely path than there was a couple of days ago. So I ran 14,605 simulations, and 2 days ago, or before this game yesterday, they had about a 7 there were 7 outcomes out of the 14 million where they made the playoffs, or about a 1 in 2 million shot. After yesterday, there are 40 outcomes out of 14,605 where they make the playoffs. So you're looking at like a 6-fold increase. It's it's not good, right? It's, what was that, a 1 in 300,000 chance? But it's a heck of a lot better than it was when it was a 1 in 2 million chance. Now them beating the Golden Knights doesn't actually hurt their lottery odds that much. Their chances of getting the first overall pick and getting Gavin McKenna only dropped by about 0.5%, which gives them currently, we're looking at still about a 17% chance of a top 2 pick. And the reason why I use the cutoff for a top 2 pick, I'm going to, in a future episode, do this using my own analysis, which is showing really similar results, but there's a lot more context and nuance and stuff that I can add on to that stuff. I'm really excited to show why a top 2 pick is so valuable and then what that does for a team. I found some really interesting results here, but just as a quick preview, this is using Evolving Hockey's data, and this is a couple of years ago, but the draft pick value of the difference between the second and the third pick is massive. It is massive. You really, really, really want a top 2 pick. It is so important. If you can't get a top 2 pick, get a top 4 pick. And if you can't get a top 4 pick, well, hopefully next year you can do it, or maybe you get lucky with a pick, but you really, really, really want a top 2 pick. And the Kraken currently, they are in a good spot to do so. 17%, 1 out of 6. It's a lot better than, 1 out of millions, with trying to compare it to beating Thanos, which actually feels like an apt metaphor, because getting this team to the playoffs, I bet Blaine Lambert feels like he's battling Thanos, or maybe it'd be easier to battle Thanos instead of trying to get this team to establish a forecheck. So technically still alive for the playoffs, but realistically, no. Now, they can't be eliminated today on Friday because the NHL is not playing any games. They play like 14 games on Thursday and then 13 games on Saturday, but no games. No games on 14 yesterday, 15 on Saturday. None tonight. It's weird. It's weird scheduling. It's Friday night. Be a good time to have a hockey game. Fans would love to go to a game, and Friday night's a good time to go to a game. But I guess I don't make the schedule. I don't understand. Anyway, if the Kraken do end up with the 3rd overall pick, that's in this draft, it seems like a bit of an inflection point, that there's a top 2 or top 3, depending on who you talk to. And I'm just starting to get into the draft stuff and learning about really starting to scout the prospects and learn about more than just the top couple of players who I've been following, but it's now time to turn our eyes towards the draft. But somehow implausibly, you want to cling to the idea that the Kraken have not been eliminated. They will not be eliminated at any point before April 12th, which is kind of cool, I guess. I mean, it's the weakest division ever, and that's the only reason why they're in this spot, but it's kind of neat. It's also the novelty of talking about lottery odds and then playoff odds with 4 games to go. Like how is a team mathematically in position for both simultaneously? So I have so much more to say about this team and this front office restructure and the independent audit and how independent it really is. But changes are coming, and that's a good thing for this team, because this team really needs to undergo change. And I hope Jason Botterill is up to the task, and for his sake and for the sake of the franchise, I hope that he was not making a lot of decisions or the final decisions, because having Jason Botterill as a new voice is a lot better than having Jason Botterill as the same voice, but with new title. Or in this case, the same title, but now he's at the top of the food chain, as it were. I don't know. Interesting times for this team. They play Calgary tomorrow, and you want to win that. Or excuse me, you want to lose that one in regulation. I mean, it's probably not going to catch Calgary, but dream big. See if you can get the 3rd overall lottery odds. These are the lottery odds right now as they stand. Kraken with the 5th pick with a 17% chance of getting the 1st overall pick, or top 2 pick rather. And an 8.5% chance of Gavin McKenna, who I assume will be the 1st overall pick. Although we also assumed Shane Wright was going to be the 1st overall pick, and then he ended up going 4th. And there's been like some people who aren't like the biggest Gavin McKenna believers. I think he started out kind of slow, and then some people didn't like the way that the season ended. I think he's awesome, and that he would be a franchise-changing player. But hopefully the Kraken lose out, or they get that 1st overall pick for the lottery. Anyway, that does it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Kraken. We'll be back on Monday to talk about the game against Calgary and talk about the future of this franchise. So make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Kraken so you get all the latest episodes. You can find us at David Jones LR on all social media platforms, or at davidjoneslockerroom.com, where we do print coverage of the Seattle Torn and the Seattle Kraken. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Kraken ad free, plus members only Discord access and more. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure this is one of your 2 daily listens. For Davy Jones Locker Room, I'm Zane Begg, and I will see you on Monday.